Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of our MLR update series on the Bonus Point Rugby podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Tj Olsen, and we've got a lot of awesome news coming out of the Major League Rugby competition to get into today. Before we get started, I first off want to thank our amazing sponsors. First off, Whalebird Kombucha. If you're looking for a great tasting beverage that is actually good for you, go try them out at your local Whole Foods, Air One, or other health food stores. Secondly, F45 Culver City. So F45 isn't a gym. It's a real community, and their team are all there to help you achieve your fitness goals with sessions in just 45 minutes. They are currently doing outdoor workouts to avoid health issues, so reach out to them for a great workout during these trying times. So even though the MLR is a long way away from starting back up again, there has been a bunch of news coming out of the US and Canada as teams gear up for the 2021 MLR season. With that in mind, I'm fortunate to be able to have the boys from the Rugby Index join me today, as they're the leading digital platform for player tracking, market values, and team rosters in the MLR. Please welcome back for another edition of the MLR update, Cam and Walker Tice. What's going on, fellas? How we doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Just recovering from the weekend. I had a big birthday celebration, but ready to get stuck into everything. How's the week been where you guys have been?
Plugging away, working night and day, and happy belated to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What about you, Cam? How's everything been going?
Oh, just living the quarantine life. We bought a new house up in right around March, and kind of came out of kind of a silver lining to the whole quarantine. Came at a time when we had tons of free time and been lots of yard work and a lot of landscaping and just a few projects around the house. But
man, that is perfect timing, actually. Yeah, you get all the spare time at home, and now you can just stick to all the little projects you get to do while you're stuck at home. So that's awesome.
Yeah, all the things I've been telling myself I was going to do, I've actually been doing. So it's nice to actually accomplish those.
Yeah. That's definitely me too, dude. I think that's with a lot of people. Everybody actually don't have any excuses anymore. For my birthday, I bought myself some weight plates, so I'm actually gonna force myself into that gym life, and especially not making excuses. But yeah, now I've got no excuses at all, and a bunch of friends messaging me saying I have no excuses. So I'm just gonna get stuck into it.
It's pretty wild. Have you seen what like the gym prices of like the free weights and all that stuff?
Oh, they've hiked them up even more than they originally.
I was on Facebook Market, and a set of 20-pound dumbbells was like $80.
Yeah,
I'll stick to push-ups.
Yeah, just do body weight stuff.
Yeah, like I'll figure it out.
All right, we got a lot to get stuck into today, Sam. There's a lot of big signings, re-signings, and news coming from all over the continent, so obviously Canada and the US. So let's start off with our first segment called the Rapid Recap. So, Walker, the floor is yours. Let's hear about who's been signed and by who. Let's hear all the quick rundown of everything.
Bear with me. It's going to be a pretty long bit here. It's been a busy week. So what we've kind of unraveled is that starting August 1st, and it's supposed to conclude here at the end of the month, is kind of a restricted free agency window. So a lot of teams announcing re-signed players that they previously re-signed and or signing new players, whether they're currently within the MLR circuit and or bringing in new players. So kind of starting with some of the busier clubs, specifically Rooney, Troy Lockwood, James Rockford, Harry Bennett, Hanko Gimmerscheis, Connor Wallace-Sims, Will Leonard. Just today, Ben Foden was announced. We're going to touch on the Fijian signing, Samu Tawake. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, I'm relatively sure that's the correct pronunciation. So, yeah, but really excited to talk about him, big Fijian prop.
Yeah, awesome. We're very, very active group there. Free Jacks, another very active group. Lubabalo Matembo, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. Dougie Fife, the Scottish Sevens phenom, has joined. And then Harry Barlow also announced. Dallas Theo McFarland, which is a multi-sport athlete, maybe the first true multi-sport athlete that we've seen in MLR. Yep. So it's a really cool player there and a unique player. Campbell Johnstone, Henry Stevens, the Canadian lock-loose forward, Hank, they call him. Houston's been active as well, announcing 5 signings: Kieran Farmer, Cecil Garber, Zach Melanganen, Sam Windsor, all four of those, and then Malachi, Esdale, all five of those have been with the club since their inaugural season. Tian Iramas has been transferred from Austin to Houston. So
And we'll talk about that later, about how that's
Texas
happened.
Swap there from the Gilgronis. The Gilgronis themselves have started to be a little bit more active. Yesterday they announced the WAPA. Jamie McIntosh, who we got to watch a time or two here in Ohio when he was with Pro Rugby Ohio. Will Maggie on a 2-year deal. Christian Osberg, which originally was set to join in 2020. Obviously, a very abbreviated season, wasn't able to join the club. He's coming back from 6 years overseas, predominantly in France. So really excited to see him back in the league, a Texas native as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Old Glory, Jack Iscaro, a guy who's been training overseas, real young player that I think has a very, very high-end. Doug Frazier, a Canadian wing, back for them. And Toronto Arrows, they keep signing and signing. They're probably one of the most concise and active teams. Andrew Ferguson, Sean Windsor, Andrew Quatrin, and Lucas Rumball, and then they signed Manu Montaro, Argentinian, which they seem to have quite a few of, and really interesting to see so many Argentinians making such a long journey up to Canada.
That's what I was so surprised about, is that Toronto, the club that are the furthest away, are going south, and they're getting everyone from below the US. So that's pretty big.
San Diego Legion, obviously, they had a monster splash with Rob Shaw. Dean Murray's back, and really interested to see how he continues to develop his role within the team. A guy that has played around the globe, and I don't know that he's found a consistent role at the Legion. Him and Pete Malcolm constantly battle it out for that hooker position. So really interested to see who wins out. I'm quite honestly surprised that both are still there. In my opinion, both are very much so quality starting hookers, but nothing wrong with versatility in your front row, because
definitely
all it takes is one little knock and Dean Murray's in, or vice versa.
And I think they go really well with guys like Nate Sylvia, obviously from a California native. So having good strong front row, and they've still obviously got a lot of talent in their backs as well. I think they're going to be really dangerous again this coming season. So super excited to see that.
Yeah. And then just to kind of wrap it up, San Diego also announced Nate Osberger, obviously U.S. national team member and scrum half wing, predominantly scrum half for the Legion, and one of the better scrum halves in the league, in my opinion. Rugby ATL, the Rattlers, just announced their logo and new brand, but they re-signed.
What do you guys think of that logo? Do you like it, or what do you think?
I personally am in favor of it. I like it. It's organic. They were Rugby ATL, and it kind of developed organically. So I like it better than some. I don't know that it's my favorite. But I like it. I like it. And then Nick Boyer actually announced himself going to the LA Guiltinis, which they've been obviously a very quiet team. I have a feeling that they've been more active than they have been vocal. And nothing confirmed, but in conversations we've heard maybe 10 to 12 names that have landed in LA. So not vocal, but certainly active, which is a very good thing to see, especially out of the expansion club that for the most part is kind of unknown. And that's our wrap up.
All right. Well, there's a lot of signings. There was a lot of people to cover, so a big list. Probably the next time we do that, it'll definitely be a lot smaller. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of movement going around in the clubs, and there is some kind of rumblings and a lot of rumors going around in the Guiltinis camp. We'll talk about that a bit later. But before we end our rapid recap segment, there are a couple players I do want to talk about quickly on that list. So we spoke about him at Rooney, the signing of Tamu Tawake, the Fijian prop who's played a little bit for Manawatu in the Mitre 10 Cup, and he's going to make a big impact, especially with his strong scrummaging and his mobility on the field. So super exciting to see him come into that mix and see how he can kind of help out Rooney. Secondly, Dougie Fife for the Free Jacks. So you spoke about it, and I think one of you guys mentioned that he has a great name for an 80s R&B singer. So he's definitely, if he ever wanted to retire and go into that, he definitely has the name for it. But 82 caps for Scotland Sevens and 84 caps for Edinburgh. So Cam, do you think he'll be a good addition to the Free Jacks? Do you think he'll bring a lot of good experience?
I think it's a pretty interesting signing. The Free Jacks been relatively quiet this year, so it'll be interesting to see how he really fills into a particular role with them. I would figure he will play into the back three, probably a fullback, but he's been spending most of his time playing sevens, so it'll just be, at least for me, it would be interesting to see how he makes that transition back to 15s. Like you just mentioned, 82 appearances with Scotland, I think over the last 3 or 4 years. So that'll be interesting. And then the signing with Harry Barlow. So I don't think he's going to end up in the centers with him. Then he also, I think he spent some time with the Scotland's U16s playing 15s. So he's got some pedigree there. That's honestly where he got his start. Was playing with the Scottish 17s, 19s, and the U20s, and he represented them in the U26 nations. So he's got
plenty of experience to kind of bring that dynamic into that side.
Yeah.
So
it's not a new version of the game for him.
Yeah, no, so that'll be good. And lastly, we spoke about it, the cross culture. So Theo McFarland is going to be an interesting player to watch. 6'6" lock. He's played for Samoa in the rapid rugby competition. He was also capped for Samoa in basketball. So he's played with a couple of friends that I know in the rapid rugby competition. He's got a lot of potential. He's a great rugby player. Walker, do you think that his hybrid skill set for basketball and rugby will pan out for him, or do you think it's going to be something he's just going to be that tall guy in the lineout just to get him those lineouts?
Well, to be fair, every team needs that tall guy. I mean, there's absolutely a place on the field for that lineout, dominant, locked, loose forward. So at that alone, as MLR is continuing to build just the different players and the league is starting to grow. I think it's a player that can grow with the league, and you look at players that are multi-sport athletes. Very frequently, those skills translate in some way, and the obvious one is a rebound to a line-out jump. Focusing on high points and hand-eye coordination and basic athletic skills, but all the same, very similar in different ways, which is maybe a little bit redundant. But no, I think size is obviously a factor, but skills translate in very concise ways. Because you're a basketball player, and open play of rugby don't always necessarily translate. There's not a whole lot that overlaps there, but in a very concise part of the game, and specifically lineouts, I think the sport of basketball can provide a lot of skill sets that make some sense.
Yeah, and I remember that when I first heard of this kid, I knew that he was playing in the FIBA Polynesian Cup or something like that, and they were going up against a final against Tahiti, and then he was saying that I want to put basketball on the map for Samoa, and that's something where I don't think I've ever heard that said in my life. Like, it's something you don't think of Samoa. Yeah, I don't think Samoan basketball have ever gone into a conversation, but I think having that cross culture is definitely something that'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see him because he's still very young. He'll just provide a great dynamic, I really think. So that'll be good. But now that we've got the rapid recap out of the way, let's get into some of the kind of major league headlines. So the first one I want to talk about is the Toronto. So we spoke about it before, signing a lot of players from South America. So even though Toronto is the furthest team away from South America, they're stealing all the guys from down there and leading the charge in bringing 7 South American players, a lot of them having caps for either Argentina or Uruguay. I saw this coming in some way, shape, or form, but I didn't think it would be Toronto they'd be signing them because out of the Argentinian camp, the Jaguares aren't a part of Super Rugby anymore, so they're looking to kind of get their players into some type of competition. So Cam, who are the main players that Toronto Arrows are kind of mixing in from down south that are really going to make an impact?
The big ones are, well, the ones they've signed are Tommy De La Vega, Juan Cruz Gonzalez, Gaston Cortez, Manuel Montero are all of our Argentinian. Gaston Mires, Leandro Livas, and Manuel Diana are all of Uruguay. To me, the 2 ones that stand out the most are actually probably 3. Tommy De La Vega is a very he's younger, loose forward. I think he's going to be a focal point, at least in tackling and ball in hand for Toronto. And I haven't seen enough of his film to know how he factors in lineouts, but if he'd be someone they'd stick in the back line or put him in as a jumper. And the other guy is Manuel Montero. Everything I've seen and heard about this guy is he's an absolute beast with ball in hand. And he's not your traditional wing, and that he's probably, I've seen him listed as like 6'4", even up to like 250 pounds. So he could honestly just be playing loose forward out there. And
Damn.
Which is just, it seems unfair even for a professional level.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think especially when it comes down to it, is a lot of people will hear Argentina and they'll think when it comes to that international level, being capped for Argentina, they gave Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa in the Rugby Championship, they gave them a run for their money. And the Jaguares are obviously, they were runners-up in the Super Rugby competition. So I think these guys are really going to make a humongous impact to this competition.
Yeah, and I really think, and you kind of started with it, you mentioned that it's interesting that the southernmost players are moving to the northernmost team.
Yeah.
I guess Free Jacks might be the northernmost, but it's Canada. It's northern. We'll call it that. But what I think it says 2 things. One, it shows continuity about Toronto. You know, all these guys are pretty, you know, consistent guys in these national teams are for Argentina and Uruguay. And what it shows is consistency and continuity within the front office and the team. These guys aren't going to just go to, you know, some thrown together, some mercenary squad. They're going to go somewhere where they see themselves long-term, where they're going to get top-level competition and coaching. And ultimately, that pretty much seems where it's going to be happening in Toronto. You saw it last year. And
even without these guys last year, they were deadly. So it's something where I think if they can put these guys in the mix and get them trained up and then just get them a part of that culture, yeah, they're definitely going to be never a dark horse. They're going to be definitely a title contender. So yeah.
And they're bringing continuity to some of the most key positions. I figure like Cruz Gonzalez will probably be their 10, and then Montero and Mires will be, and Levis will probably be their back 3. So, you know, you depending on their style of play, that figures very well. If your 10 and your back 3 are all high level, and you could probably just find some guys that can kind of just fill the void at center. But if it fits your system, that's going to be pretty deadly.
Yeah. And Walker, have you got anything to add to that about just them being inserted into their program?
Well, I think Toronto, out of all the clubs especially, has done a really good job of retaining a lot of the youth in their team, but also bringing in, and Cam kind of hit on it with Tommy De La Vega and some of these other players. Tommy kind of in his prime at 29 years old, but some of these other guys, Manuel Diana, 24. You look at, and I'm trying to look at Juan Cruz Gonzalez, 27. So again, kind of in his prime of playing. You look at the youth and prime of some of these players. I think Toronto, in my opinion, Toronto and Rooney are probably the ones with the team with the targets on their back. But for a way too early prediction, I think Toronto is the one, the front runner that's got a target on their back, and everybody's chasing them.
Yeah, that's those two clubs are definitely ones that I've been seeing have just been coming up the last 3 years, as Rooney especially, just have so much potential. But yeah, I think Toronto, especially in their kind of conference, you'd say they're definitely kind of the leaders and have the most potential. So yeah, it's super exciting to see them make all those signings, and super happy for those guys who are obviously out of professional rugby and Super Rugby, or not going over to France or other places, to stay in the mix and stick with an American comp. But let's move on to our next story, which will be the Giltinis, who are kind of maintaining that radio silence. And you kind of touched on it before, is they haven't really been promoting anything, no signings. There hasn't really been any news that come out, but a big yearning for a lot of people to kind of know what's going on. Since their coaching announcement of Darren Coleman and Stephen Hoyles, there hasn't been anything. So Austin are obviously owned by the same owner, and they went through the rebrand to the Gil Gronies. And I think you guys touched on it before we were speaking about it. They had a clear marketing plan. They made a lot of noise in the press, and they were very active on social media. I spoke to a source today. I can't reveal who, but they're on the edges of the organization, and they'll be coming out with a bang supposedly in September. So some big news. But they said they're unable to share anything more just due to their plan. So that's something. So they kind of sound like they have something in the pipeline. Do you think that, due to the way the season went with the pandemic and the fact that they're holding off and saving those big announcements, are they trying to get the most out of that shock factor, Walker, do you think? Or is it something else, you think?
You know, it's really, really hard to say. My personal opinion is, and having been in that professional sports startup environment, it's not always the easiest thing to announce and then just keep that momentum. So there sometimes is that dip, and it's not for lack of effort or lack of clear marketing plan. It's just minimal resources available, and really starting to start from ground zero and make your way, and then build your momentum, kind of to your point, into the start of the season. We're still at least 6 months out from the start of the season, probably 4 months out from camp starting and guys starting to get in market. So, to hear that they've got a big splash starting in September, and then, probably from there on out starting to ramp things up, that doesn't surprise me in the least bit. The last thing you would want to do is have all this momentum in July and August, and then as you get into November, December, into the start of the season, phase out and become less relevant. So if there's a time to be maybe less vocal and not as relevant, it's probably now. And so time is the teller of all stories. We'll see what happens. But if that is in fact true, and is that on the branding side, is that a player signing, or did they?
See, that's the thing as well, is that I was trying to get I know a few people that are a part of that kind of dynamic. Obviously, me being here in LA, and I wanted to give them an opportunity to kind of let them speak about it, and they said, we've got a plan. Just let us kind of hash it out, and we'll go there. So I'm not sure. It could be the branding side, could be the player signing. I would love to speculate and say one way or the other, but I don't know. So yeah, it's something where
that's fair.
yeah.
And so I guess that's part of what everybody's trying to figure out is what is that splash? Are they going to make a splash for the longest time? And it's still, the active conversation. Did they get so much positive or, in maybe some cases negative feedback about their branding and marketing?
I think it's definitely more so negative from a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing.
It's different, and there's some validation that any PR is not necessarily bad PR if you're being talked about and you're still relevant in a different context. But when people are talking about you, it's a good thing. So are they different? Is it and I even when they first came out, I wasn't a huge fan, but it's different. And if you want to test the status quo, which I'm a fan of, go for it. If that's your brand and that's what you're going to stick to, then do it and do it well. And it sounds like they've got a plan, which, I'll get my popcorn ready because I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. Is especially in kind of a newer competition, you have the opportunity to take those risks and be different and be unique. So I think when it comes to that aspect, you are right. People in Australia, New Zealand, all over the world are talking about the Giltinis, and it's something where you said it may not be positive, it may not be negative. But they're still talking about them. So it's something where get the word out, and if this splash ends up working in their favor, it could turn around for them, and then they could make a huge impact in the season. So we'll see when it comes to that. But we'll move on to the Texas side in Houston. So it's been reported that Houston has paid a fee to Austin to acquire the rights to Tion Strauss Erasmus. Tion is a South African hooker who played for the Austin team when they were called the Elite. But I assume some of our listeners probably are confused about why Houston are paying a fee to Austin for him. So Walker, do you want to go more into depth about explaining why teams are able to pay a few dollars or pay certain fees to acquire the rights to players like this?
Yeah, and we kind of spoke about it before the show. It's originally I thought it was described as a direct transfer fee, so a club, and you find it a lot more when players are moving internationally. A club will pay X amount of dollars to receive the rights of a player. In a closed system like MLR, you find the transferring allocation money or salary cap dollars, which I'll call allocation money. That type of transfer a lot more frequent, and that sounds like what happened where Houston, Tion was a quote unquote restricted free agent, and for Houston to obtain his rights, they either had to pay a percentage of his salary, or I believe it's a $2,000 salary cap fee to Austin to have him and or to retain his rights. So wasn't necessarily just a write of the check of here's $5,000 for the player. It was more of a transition of salary cap money. So it's not an actual exchange of a check, but it's just the ability to spend more in the salary cap, or in Houston's case, spend a little bit less to obtain his rights. So really the first confirmed transfer fee we've seen regardless. But still, it's exciting to see the league becoming a little bit more dynamic in that sense. And you see every major sport in the United States or even around the world, or I should say major league around the world or in the United States, they've got really dynamic and intricate salary builds and designated players or max contracts in the NBA and things like that. So starting to see more dynamic player movements and again, I think we mentioned in the last podcast that just the transparency of it is really nice to see, and so seeing some of that come to light is really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that it kind of provides a whole new dynamic that a lot of rugby people may not be used to. Like you said, the NBA has certain things, other professional sports, especially it's kind of the American way. They want to be kind of as interesting about how they can acquire the best players for their team. And it makes news headlines as well. So it makes it more interesting for us. Instead of just signing a player, they sign a 3-year deal for maybe the New Zealand Rugby Union or the ARU, and then they're stuck there for that team, and then they go to another team. It makes it interesting. It makes it amazing to kind of have those new headlines to cover every day.
Well, and I think a lot of these roster restrictions or player acquisition mechanisms are meant for parity of the league, which is a good thing. If there's a lot of parity in the league, there's more meaningful games. There's better competition, which is what we want to see, and especially in an early years of a league, you want to have some parity. You don't want to have a team that kind of gets kicked in the dirt every single year. That just gets phased out because they're just not good. So that parity and that level playing field is really important in the early years of a league, I think.
And Cam, do you agree with that, or do you think it's something that's just provides a bit too much confusion for some people to kind of keep up with, or do you think it's definitely something that Americans are going to be able to kind of understand and handle when it comes to this season?
I think your point about that the more intricate becomes, it's really something. It's a marketing tool. I think you're dead on with that, and that's something. And I guess you could probably shed a little bit more light onto the international sense of it. But at least in America, we eat that stuff for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Every day.
At least in the recent decade. I don't know if it's our generation or what, but we just, you see things like Pro Football Focus and just that's probably the most prominent one, but other entities like that following other sports where a large part of their business just following the player transaction and the intricacies of the contracts. And I mean, they're making tens of millions of dollars off it. So I'm sure if the MLR and other leagues did it, properly, it could follow suit, no questions.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I think that's why, especially a lot of people here in this country watch SportsCenter every day because they know that's going to be something coming out, going, hey, new signing, new trade, something like that. So it's definitely something I'm going to enjoy, and I really hope a lot of other people enjoy to kind of see what happens. But it's called the bonus point for a reason. I think this last segment today is going to make a big difference to the dynamic of the upcoming MLR season. I think you guys will probably agree with me. With the HSBC Sevens on hold at the moment and the Tokyo Olympics being pushed to the next summer, there has been a lot of countries that have been loaning their Sevens players to club rugby, professional 15s competitions, so many different dynamics. So a few good examples happening around the world. You've got guys like Caleb Clark, who's a very prominent player for the New Zealand Sevens team, who's been playing amazing in the Super Rugby competition for the Auckland Blues. A lot of French players have loaned their Sevens players to top 14 competition. That'll provide a lot more depth to their French kind of competition. Also, you've even got a lot of women that play in Farah Palmer Cup teams or Super W in New Zealand that are very stacked with a lot of Black Ferns who are usually playing in Sevens competitions, especially with a lot of events like Dubai, Cape Town, Sydney Sevens. They basically turned around and said, we're not happening. It's just not possible. They're not going to take place. So Walker, I'll ask you first. Do you think that coaches like Mike Friday and Henry Paul will loan their Sevens players like Pinkelman or Hirayama to MLR teams?
I think there's certainly a possibility. I think the balance is risk versus reward. You want these guys to be in shape, and rugby of all sports is one of the sports that to be in rugby shape you have to be playing rugby. You can train all day, but just the physical caliber that you need to, the physical fitness caliber that you need to be in, it has to be done playing rugby. Obviously 15s to 7s is a very, very different sport, but playing rugby is playing rugby. And if you're in game shape, you can transition there. Now the risk is injury and guys getting burnt out before they come back. So I think there's a balance. I think we will see some of the, and I don't use this term, to undermine the players, but the lower half of the roster playing in the MLR or in some of those players playing with the teams to get in shape, to get, and Mike Friday for him to see just with more game film and some of those guys that maybe haven't been on the circuit as long or haven't had that opportunity to just kind of showcase themselves in addition to staying in shape and being in rugby fitness. So in a short answer, yes, but I don't think it's going to be some of the superstars that we've come to know, the Danny Barretts, the Madison Hughes, and some of those guys. I don't envision those guys jumping into MLR.
See, I think you hit that really well because it's for another example is you have guys who play for Pacific Island nations. This has been a big debate over many years. They're obviously playing some in France or in the Heineken Cup, and they won't get released to go play for their international teams because those people, because it's private ownership, they don't want to release those players because of the risk of contracts, especially if they're a high-profile player. They don't want to risk millions and millions of dollars of someone going and playing one test match for Samoa or for Fiji and just taking all that money away that they've just spent for that one player. So
Yeah.
I definitely think you are right in that aspect. But the other aspect of it, you said that 7s and 15s is a different game. Cam, do you think that these players are going to improve the dynamic and the caliber of the play, or do you think it's going to disrupt the teams by pushing out other players that you would usually get those spots?
I wouldn't see any disruption if there is to call it a disruption. I think it's only adding an extra layer of intricacy that would bring a different level of excitement. And personally, I just hope that they probably don't let some of these top tier players. I don't know what the circumstances are regarding their contracts with USA Rugby and what their payouts were. I don't know if some of these guys are kind of hurting for, some cash or whatever. But after the last result of the World Cup, the Olympics, U.S. kind of fell flat on its face, and I hate to see that these guys getting burnt out playing MLR would, somehow duplicate that result.
Okay. Yeah, no, I feel that. That's going to be something where throwing the whole pandemic factor into it is definitely going to be the wild card, obviously, because there's so many different variables that go on. But we'll see. Like, I would love to see guys like Hirayama or even Danny Barrett come and play in the MLR, because you know how much of a big impact they could make. Yeah. And I'm not the biggest Danny Barrett fan, because he was playing for Cal Berkeley when he was playing against Cal Poly, who I used to coach for, and I think he ended up breaking one of the players' arms or something by that. But as a player,
for the course for him.
Oh man, like I respect him immensely. So to see that someone with that much explosiveness, who you obviously see bowl over sevens players like crazy and bring that into the MLR, it's definitely going to be a good marketing tool. But yeah, we'll see whether Mike Friday will take the risk to do that. It'll definitely be the time will tell. So we'll see.
Well, and you've already seen some guys. I think Marcus Tulopo, who was up at Notre Dame College, and we're in Ohio, so I played against him once. He is as fast as advertised, and just dusted me. We were up at a sevens tournament, but as advertised, and so you've seen some of those guys. I think it was Pat Blair as well. Both of them have had stints with San Diego, very abbreviated stints. So I think there's some receptiveness there, but again, those aren't the pillars of USA Rugby. They're not the Perry Bakers or the Danny Barretts or Madison Hughes. So just to kind of reiterate the point that I made earlier, is that I think there will be some guys that get an opportunity to play. I just don't think it's going to be that upper echelon of sevens players, of maybe the top 6 to 8 roster guys. But
yeah,
time will tell.
And there's definitely going to be some guys that I believe won't even be touched with the 10-foot pole, like your Carlin Isles, because he's a sevens player, in my opinion, because he needs that space and he needs that width, and his skill set I don't think would kind of pass over into the 15s game. In my opinion, some people would probably disagree with me, but I think that some people, they'll just stick with sevens. They won't really get any offers, but we'll go from there. But yeah, I think we've got a lot of news coming out of the US and Canada, so I'm super excited for this upcoming season. Very, very excited to see the kind of dynamic of the new signings, how those South Americans come into play, and how all these other new guys come into play. But thank you very much, guys, for joining us for another episode. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of the busy schedules, the work schedules, and we're looking forward to sharing some more news. Have you guys got anything else you wanted to share before I let you guys go?
I think we hit about everything that I had, Cam.
No, that's about it. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Rugby Index. Try and keep it simple for everybody.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that's making it easier for me too, is every morning I wake up and I've got 5 notifications from the Rugby Index about new signings and everything. So if you want MLR news, definitely stick with it. But we'll see you guys soon, and we'll have another episode in about 2 weeks, and hopefully we've got more action-packed kind of schedule to jump in. But yeah, thanks guys, and thank you very much for tuning in to the Bonus Point podcast. We'll see you soon.